This is a historic moment and a historic summer we have been living through. What will President Joe Biden's legacy be after he decided to drop out of this race?
President Joe Biden has served this country for 50 plus years, and the way that he stepped out and immediately endorsed Vice President Harris, who he selected as his vice presidential nominee and made her the first woman to ever hold that position. And then looking at the way he has led throughout his career, his presidency has to be one of the most consequential in modern history. And when you the first black woman on the Supreme Court, the first woman and black woman as a vice president, and now the way that he is standing behind Vice President Kamala Harris and making sure that everyone understands that we need to rally behind her. We need to get her over the finish line in this very abbreviated presidential race. We have 81 days, I think maybe 81, 80, but we have a very abbreviated time frame to do this. So he will go down in the history books as someone who has always put country over everything, even his personal ambitions or his personal gains. He has put our country and our party first because he understands what's at stake in this election.
You talk about, I'm sorry to jump in here just with respect to how much time we have left. You talk about how much time we have left before Election Day. It's not a lot. This is all happening very quickly. This is a new ticket. This is a fairly unknown ticket. What does a HarrisWalls campaign stand for?
The HarrisWalls campaign stands for freedom. When we have seen the rallies that have been held all across the country, Vice President Harris was here in Atlanta on July 30th. I remember the date because it was my birthday. But she was here, and we had 10,000 people in the Georgia State Convocation Center. And if the fire marshal would have allowed us to have more in, we would have had more. But the room, the audience there, people came because they see a vision for this country that they want to be a part of. And it's not running away from something where we're just about defeating Donald Trump, because that is always our priority. But this is a joyful campaign where the vice president and our new vice presidential nominee, Governor Walls, it's about freedom, the freedom to learn so that our children can learn their full history when they step into our classrooms. Reproductive freedom, because on the other side, we have Donald Trump, who brags about overturning Roe v. Wade. And the freedom to thrive. This is about our economy. How do we make sure that people are not just getting by, but getting ahead? So this campaign is about freedoms. The vice president is announcing and laying out her economic policy now, and we'll be able to dig through that, and I'm sure you'll have questions when I come back about it, and I'll be happy to answer them. But this is a very new campaign, and I think a lot of people have wanted a lot of things to be out in the forefront, where we have to remember just 3 weeks ago, this didn't exist. So we've got a lot of work to do in an abbreviated time frame, but we're up to the challenge.
With Vice President Kamala Harris now at the top of the Democratic ticket, how will that impact Georgia's role in the presidential election?
So Vice President Harris will continue to come back. She has been no stranger to Georgia, having been here over a dozen times already since she's been vice president. But if you look at just in the first 24 hours after she was announced as running for president, we had over 1,000 volunteers just at the Democratic Party of Georgia.
Just here in Georgia?
Yes, the most volunteers we've ever had to sign up in a 24-hour period, over 1,000. Our donations increased by 320% here in Georgia. So we know that there's a level of excitement of people ready to get engaged in a way that they've never been before. And we're going to continue to do the work, because even with this excitement, we are still a battleground state. That means we have to continue to have those conversations with voters, and we are not taking anything for granted, but we're going to do what it takes here in battleground Georgia to make sure that we deliver once again to make Kamala Harris the president of the United States.
Does Georgia become more competitive now that Kamala Harris is at the top of the ticket?
Well, I think Kamala Harris coming here and the excitement that we've seen definitely is a shift from what we saw in early July. So I think that having more volunteers on the ground, having more people to spread the message is always a great thing. So it gives us, we've seen the polls, but polls will change. So we don't need to put too much weight into where we are today because we know that we have work to do. Vice President Harris is the underdog in this race, and we're going to continue to do the work and not take any voter for granted.